Alrighty. What's up, everybody? My name is Juwan Rohan, and this is the Misguided Podcast, where we intend to guide you to a better future. I'm sitting here with Mercedes Hernandez of Bow and Arrow Clothing. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. It is Sunday, October 2nd. Wow, it's already October. That's crazy.
Flew
I
by.
feel like
Now it's just gonna
this,
take off with the holidays.
yeah, that's true. That's true. I just feel like we've been trucking along for like the last 2 to 3 years, like throughout all the craziness that's happened. And then boom, we're in a recession and now we're still trucking along trying to
Yeah,
figure
I'm taking
it out.
this. I know.
Yeah, for real, for real. It's crazy, but we are here alive and well. It looks like you're doing well. You know, you had a good morning, busy morning. And
Yeah,
so thank you for coming up here.
yeah.
Uh,
Thank you.
of course, of course. So I always like to give the audience an idea of how I found you.
Mhm.
And if I remember correctly, I was just on Instagram randomly, and I think somebody I follow had posted your page, Bow and Arrow, and I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, nice." They were like, "Oh, I love this place," and so I'm from Berkeley. Okay, I
Okay.
just got to be honest. So I'm from Berkeley, and if you know Berkeley, there's a Bows and Arrows out there, right?
Yeah. Funny that you
So,
say that because we get people calling our shop asking if it's that one from Berkeley, and
yeah,
I'm like, no, it is not.
yeah, I'm
So,
sure you do. So I thought it was. So when I saw my friend post, I was like, oh,
um,
they know like the owner? Let me get an interview, right? I was like, so I went and it was like, oh no, it's a whole different one. Where the hell is, I don't even know how to pronounce the city name.
Kid
Hotel?
Toddy. Kid
Katati,
Toddy.
yeah. So I was like, where the hell is this? And it's not that far from me. I'm in Benicia, but I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God. So I
Oh,
started looking it up. I Googled bow and arrow,
yeah.
and then it was like, oh, it's like, really nice reviews. There's a couple articles about Mercedes. Then I started reading the articles and was like, oh, she's like young. She's like, like a store owner, business owner. Like, this would be an interesting story. And I
Yeah.
just like started following your page and reached out and thank you for responding to the DM.
Oh, yeah, of course. Thank you. It's an honor to be here and to kind of just share the platform with you. It's nice knowing that you're like a young entrepreneur yourself too. So,
Yeah.
I'm sure you and me can relate on a lot of things.
Yep. So a lot of terrible things and a lot of good things.
Yep.
uh, but no, thank you. I appreciate it. Let's go ahead and get into your story. So where are you from?
Yeah, so I grew up in Windsor, California. Most people are familiar with Santa Rosa, just 40 minutes north of San Francisco. I grew up just being a fashionista since I was little, since I can remember. Clothes has always been my thing. And I'll kind of just share like where my business journey started. Um, I got my first job in retail when I was 15. I worked at our local mall. I worked at Justice. It used to be limited too for anyone who used to shop there when in the 90s, younger days, early 2000s.
Yeah.
And so, working at Justice, I got a lot of customer service experience and, just learning skills in that industry. And I really enjoyed helping customers pick out outfits every time they came in. And so my interest for, fashion and everything kind of just grew from there. And I ended up getting an opportunity to work at a local boutique in the same mall too. So I got to see what it was like to work for a corporation and locally owned. And I graduated from Windsor High in 2012. And at this time, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I thought maybe I would just get a career, working behind the desk or something. I didn't know what I was really interested in, but I did know that I loved fashion. That was always been a part of me in my, my life.
Yeah.
And so once I graduated high school, I started attending the Santa Rosa Junior College, and I was working towards an AA in business administration. And I was hating a lot of the classes. I was not enjoying it at all. And I had met with a counselor at the junior college, and I kind of shared with her, where I was at with everything, and just kind of trying to see what my options were career wise. Um, at this time, kind of jumped ahead. At this time, I had launched Bow and Arrow clothing online, and I was 18 years old. I was selling everything out of my house. I had a small little storage room, and I was super small, had just started, And she had asked me, she's like, "What are you passionate about?" And I had shared with her, like, I did start my own online boutique. And she was the one who was like, "Why don't you open up your own shop?" And I was
Mhm.
like, "I can do that?" I was like, "This no one ever told me that." Like,
That's the thing is like we never know what we can do. Like
yeah,
you're
not
like,
even in high school,
yeah,
we don't talk about entrepreneurship. And, I was like, That's something that I can do." I didn't know that was possible. So she plugged me into the entrepreneurship program at the junior college. And through that program, I learned so much about, just starting a business, what it takes to start up, how to sustain a business, marketing, all of that stuff. So it
yeah.
definitely,
Let's be honest. All right, let's
yeah.
from learning it in the classroom to actually being in it.
Hmm.
You gotta admit that there was some stuff that the classroom just did not and could not teach you, right?
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you learn it on paper and then
Mhm.
you go and try and implement it, and it's like
Mhm.
it's not working. What the hell?
Same.
Yeah,
Yeah. And, like, I truly wish there was, like, a huge manual or training book
yeah.
that taught you how to run a business, like, word for word. And if you experience or encounter this problem, this is how you overcome
Or
it.
just like a mentor, right? Like
Yeah.
that's why I started this is because I wanted to, to guide people, right? The
Yeah.
misguided. I wanted to have like that mentor mentee relationship because if
Mhm.
someone was there to just be like, hey, you shouldn't be doing this, or this is what you should be doing, or if this happens,
Mhm.
books can't teach you that.
For
Audibles can't teach you that. And so
sure.
it's
Mhm.
very important to kind of I
Yeah.
always say in order to learn, you have to take that step into it and just figure it out. Like it's
That's
gonna
the best
suck.
way.
Yeah,
Right? And I think that just goes with being an entrepreneur. Like, that's one thing that is a trait that we have, right? Like, any obstacle, you find a solution or a way to overcome it. There's no stopping, you know what I mean? That
yeah.
we don't take that as like a stop sign. We keep going, we push over that hurdle.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's
Mhm.
cool. Okay, let's kind of dig into the story a little bit and poke
Yeah.
some holes at it. Now,
Yeah.
so I want to know kind of like the pivotal moment where fashion interested you. I know you said you've been interested since a little girl, but
Yeah.
was it like, oh, I saw like Britney Spears wear this, or
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can't even say really where my inspiration was. I mean, I was that girl who played with Barbies and their outfits. Like, I was always getting different outfits for them, making them do little fashion shows. Modeling was something I loved. And in my preteen years, I did professional modeling and runway too. So I know fashion.
ooh,
I know.
okay.
Yeah, so, I, kinda tapped into that industry as well. But like I said, like, even when I was, like, in elementary, I'd go into my mom's closet, check out to see what she had and get, like, a T-shirt. Even though it was completely oversized, I still, like, found a way to style it and to rock it.
That's
So
cool.
it's just my creative outlet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Mhm.
cool. Okay. Did you was that like your sole focus, or did you play any sports? Did you have any other things going on?
Um, I mean, if we're talking about, like, high school and stuff, fashion was always just a part of me. And like I said, I got my first job when I was 15, and,
Yeah, that's
I
young.
was juggling that in school. So that was really it. In my younger days, I was a gymnast for 8 years, did volleyball here and there, cheer here and there. Um,
Nice. Tried
yeah,
it all when you're younger, just like a bunch
exactly.
of I got you. I
Yeah.
got you. That's so cool. That's so cool. So let's talk about the brand name, Bow and Arrow. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, so, I named it Bow and Arrow Clothing because there was, like, this little quote I found on Pinterest that I just resonated with, and I always carried it with me throughout my, like, kinda years in high school and stuff. In order for an arrow to be shot forward, it has to be pulled back. So sometimes in life, there's gonna be obstacles and struggles that hold you back, but you just have to remember that it's gonna launch you into something greater. And so that's where I got Bow and Arrow from.
That is absolutely fire, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna steal that for an Instagram caption. Okay, so it's fire. Nah, yeah, that's amazing, and that is so cool how you kind of piece that together and
Yeah.
really kind of brought a brand into like
Mhm.
its own identity
Right.
and a message, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm sure, when people walk into your store all the time, they're like, so how'd you come up with the name? And when they hear that, they're like, oh my God, give me 10 of
Yeah,
these.
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So that's so cool because everyone goes through struggle, right?
Mhm.
Everyone goes through this period of where it's like, damn, I already took 5 steps forward and now I'm being pushed back. Like, what do I
Right.
do? And so
Yeah.
that like positivity is amazing.
Yeah.
So I have like a similar thing. Like I've always been interested. It's funny because I'll say I've always been interested in fashion, but if I look back at my clothes back then, the early 2000s is
Yeah.
like baggy, like I'm wearing a 5XT at
Dude,
like 14
yeah.
years old. Like, so
I was like, you had
yeah,
to go through, yeah, that,
I've always been into fashion, right? So
yeah, yeah, the trend,
um,
whatever was trending, right? Did you do, like,
yeah,
the
yeah.
whole, like, skinny jeans, like, the bright colored skinny jeans at all? Did you tap into, like, your skater
No, I
era?
that was the
No.
one thing I refused to stay away from. And I went to
No.
Berkeley High, so
Yeah,
everyone was doing it.
right.
So that I didn't do the colorful skinny jeans or
Uh-huh.
anything, but I did do the like oversized jorts and
Oh, yeah.
like yeah, with like huge logos on it. I did the belts, like the little
Mhm.
light up belts. It was
No
what the
way.
see
I
through
wanna see pictures of that.
yeah, the
I'd love to
see-through
see that.
Jordans. It's crazy. It's crazy. But I need to wipe the internet from those.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, when I was, I've been interested in clothing and music, right? Because those two are synonymous. So
mhm,
um, when I was in high school, started selling. I made my brand because basketball was number one. I played basketball in college
mhm.
and everything. Basketball has always been my life. So I was like, how can I implement like what I like, outside of basketball into basketball. And I ended up creating this like phrase that I would always say because I would be that kid that always like had a basketball on him or always going to the gym. And that's how kind of people knew me. Right. And so I was like, hoop or die. Right. And so I just started saying that all the time, hoop or die. And, and, like my friends started to catch on and I was like, let me just throw that on a t-shirt. Like I'm gonna just make a t-shirt for myself
Yeah,
and a logo. So I had one of my friends in high school create like this logo and it was like an HOD. And that's kind of like what I would brand on
yeah,
everything I wore. I didn't even think like, oh, I could sell this. Like,
yeah,
it was just like fashion on me.
yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just like make a couple and I'm gonna
Mhm.
sell it and just see. And like, I mean, it wasn't nothing. Like I would just sell some here and there. That wasn't my focus, right? It was just dress me. And funny story, but I actually had the first very HOD. It was a crew neck. I had made a crew neck, black crew neck, and I had it. And my mom found it maybe like a year ago. She
Mhm.
found it in the closet, and I was like, "Oh, that's crazy." And so, funny story, we took it to Bow and Arrow in
In
Berkeley, and
Berkeley.
they bought that shit,
No
which is
way.
yeah. And I was like, then I it's on the shelf and my mom goes there or no, my friend goes
Yeah.
there frequently and I get a photo and it's like a photo of my thing hanging in there and I'm like,
What?
wow, that's crazy. And
Dude.
they marked it up way higher than I would
Did
have sold
they?
it for, but I was like, that's dope.
It was
So
like a full circle moment, you know what I mean, for
it's
you?
like 12 years ago. Like I
Yeah.
graduated in
Mhm.
2012 as
Yeah.
well. 2012. Yeah, yeah, 2012. So
Okay.
like
Mhm.
full circle. So yeah, I just say that story because it's just funny, like how that was such a long time ago. And like if I would have knew the business of like clothing and stuff, and I still don't know the business of clothing,
Mhm.
then I would have. I think I could have made it work a little bit more.
Right.
Question before we move on, do you watch on HBO Match the Hype?
No, I've seen it though. I've come across it. I haven't watched it though.
You not you like you did you watch one episode or you just seen the
No,
trailers and
like
stuff?
I just seen it on there. I haven't watched it.
Watch it. I want you to watch it and I want to hear what your thoughts are.
No way. Okay. Is it?
Because
Yeah. I haven't seen.
it's
What is
like
it?
so I don't know. We can talk about it, but it's like street fashion, and
Okay,
there's a
that's fun.
bunch of people, just like you, who like go on there and they create their stuff, and it's a competition show, but it's street fashion, and some of the stuff is
Yeah.
really dope. So that brings me to a good point. What kind of fashion interests you?
Okay, so I don't know if you know this. So I own Bone Arrow Clothing, which I rebranded as Bow and Arrow and Friends, and I can share more of that. But I also own Holy Vintage in Santa Rosa, which is my other shop. And
You
then
have two shops?
I have two shops. and then I have the Soko Market, which is an outdoor community market I started for small businesses. So I have those three running right now.
What's the one in Santa Rosa? Vintage what?
Holy Vintage. It's Holee Vintage. Dude, check it out on Instagram. I'm surprised you didn't see that on my bio.
I did. My bad, my bad. Nah, I was so juiced about the other one. I didn't even.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
wow, yeah, I see it. Okay, damn, 2 shots.
So
We
I
definitely got to talk about that.
yeah, well, I mean, so that kind of I brought that up because you asked me what my style is, and it's both everything I carry in Holy Vintage and bow and arrow. So my fashion for what trends and all that kind of, but also I grew up thrifting, so I'm totally into vintage. Rocking my Harley tees and anything from like the early '90s and '80s. Totally all for it. So that's why I started Holy Vintage. Kind of bringing my two worlds together, right?
This is like total opposite of the other store.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, this is like your dark side. This is like your you know
Right?
what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like when you go into a business and they have the front and then they got the real business in
Yes,
the back.
the other side. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
awesome. That's
yes.
awesome. Damn, okay, that's cool. And I love the sneakers. So are you
Yeah.
like a sneakerhead?
Somewhat, yes. I kind of tapped into that, but I think through the Soko market, my interest really grew for that. And so let me kind of explain what Holy Vintage is. So we have vintage clothing inside. We have our sneakers as well, and then my sister's opening up her coffee shop inside. So it's going to be like vintage and coffee. But everyone in there is a small business. So it's like a consignment situation. So vintage curators rent a rack with us to sell their stuff in store.
Hmm.
Same thing with the sneakers. It's all consignment as well. We have certain sneaker vendors who sell in store with us too.
Okay, and how do people become a vendor in your store?
Yeah, we have a wait list, but it is available on our website. So pretty much, so I had opened this. It's gonna be coming up on a year, October 29th. I opened it last year, and pretty much everyone we've opened with has been with us ever since. So we don't really filter people out because no one's moved out. But if an opportunity does come up, we'll post it on our Instagram, and then we'll also have the wait list posted on our website as well. So just in case the spot opens up, we'll reach out to you and get you plugged in. But yeah, so that's been
That's
my
awesome. This is so cool. You
career.
just like for real, I'm juiced to be interviewing you. That's awesome. Okay, so and how'd you come up with that name?
So all of my businesses are kind of my foundation. It's all built on faith. So I have
Okay.
this, a strong relationship with God, and I make him the CEO of all my businesses and Holy Vintage. So holy. And then, vintage has holes in it usually. So I spelt it Holee, but still kind of tying it back to my faith. So
Yeah.
Holy Vintage.
Nah, that's dope.
Yeah.
Holy, that's you're smart. You're smart. It's like you went to school or something. Like I don't know, but nice, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's go ahead and talk about. I mean, the elephant in the room, right? Like, how the hell do you get a storefront? Like, I
Yeah.
don't even know where to start, right? And most people don't. So let's go ahead and talk about the process of
Right.
you getting to that
Yeah.
first store. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. So, key to opening up a storefront. So I had begun saving. So, a year prior to opening up my shop, I got a job, my first job in hospitality. So I was working as a waitress, and I was making, great money as a waitress. And I knew my bigger goal was opening up a shop. And so I began to save, working towards that. And the thing about opening up a shop, location is key, right? You can't just open up a shop at a space because it's vacant. Like, you need to know what the demographic is in that area. Is it your customer? Like, is it your target audience who lives in that area? What's the activity in that area like, to foot traffic? Those are all things you need to take into consideration. Um, and so my shop, we're located in Katati, which is a college town. We're just like 5 minutes from Sonoma State University. And I'm right in the downtown prime area. And what's crazy is when I was looking for a spot, again, I didn't know the whole process, right? Or what to look for in a lease agreement and all of that. but I had come across this one thrift store that was where I'm at today. They were there, right in the corner, prime spot. And I was like, let me walk in and just kind of check it out, see what's going on. Fell in love with that spot. And I just asked the manager, I was like, hey, by chance, are you guys going to be like, leasing the area? They had no like signs that they were going to be leaving. And she's like, oh, no, we're not leaving at all. We've been here for 11 years. And I don't know why that location stuck on me. And I was like, I want that spot. Like, I know it just, they weren't leaving, right? They had been there for 11 years. 2 weeks go by and I just drive downtown again because I was again looking for a right location, and they had a for lease sign in their window. And so I called, met with the landlord the next day, and signed a lease. And
Wait, so were they just lying to you or what?
no, I don't know what happened. It was all of a sudden they decided that they were just going to expand to Marin, to San Rafael area. And they were going to be closing that shop.
That's literally like God's work. Now I know why it's literally like, that's insane.
It's just one of the many ways like God has shown up in my life, and then, opening up doors for me. But, so answering your question, so, how to open up a storefront. So obviously square footage, kind of think about that. How big do you want your shop to be? My shop, for instance, is 1,600 square feet, which is,
big.
It's not too big. No, it's not too big. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty standard.
Yeah, I mean, you think I'm a realtor in the Bay, so a lot of people can't get 600 square feet in their home. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm sure so some things like when you're looking for a storefront, usually going directly with the landlord is great. And so this landlord, I went directly to him, right? And sometimes with rent and stuff, they'll charge so things you want to look for, right? Are they going to charge triple net? Do you know what triple net is for your rent?
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of people know, yeah.
Nah, go ahead. No, because there's people on here who don't. So go ahead and break it down. It's important.
To my understanding, it's just when the landlord has you pay the taxes, right? So it's incorporated into your rent amount.
Yeah.
So your rent can fluctuate month to month depending on that tax rate.
How do you feel about that?
I prefer not to. I prefer just a flat rate, monthly rate,
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm looking for. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because things change, right? Taxes, they're always freaking increasing. Yeah. California taxes suck.
Right.
And so it kind of, I don't know. That's something to really consider and try to avoid, but it's pretty much you're paying all the expenses on the property, which include taxes, insurance for the building. Mm-hmm. So you're also paying into insurance of the landlord's, insurance that he has on all those all the units in that building, and you're paying maintenance. And so that's in addition to the cost of rent and utilities for those who don't know. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So thankfully this landlord, he was just like, here's, flat rate and stuff. And, I was 20 years old when I opened up the storefront. So
that's crazy. That is, first of all, we just need to silence. That is crazy. 20 years old. Like, congrats. Yeah. And to even have that discipline to save the money like you were doing, like waitressing, like that's one thing I regret. Like when I was, I'm 28 now. And when I was, when I got back from college, because I didn't party, right? Because it was always basketball. Like there was barely time. Like obviously when we had time off from basketball, we partied, but because I didn't get that, when I got home and I started making some money, I was like, oh, club Thursday, Thirsty Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Like I'm single, like, I'm out every weekend. Yeah. And that wasted a lot of money and a lot of time. And that's one of the things that I don't necessarily regret because I had a great time. But I do, if I would have went back, I would have been like, nah, I'm straight, saving my money, and investing in like real estate and everything. Right. And that's one thing. So I just want to congratulate you on having that discipline young. Before you continue to move on, where did you get that discipline from?
Oh my gosh. I think it was just the way I was raised, obviously, like my dad. I've always been a saver. I think my parents kind of taught me, they're like, hey, if you're gonna do these chores, I'm gonna pay you this much. And I was always saving. I always kind of bought things myself. So if I wanted a new phone, I had to save money to buy a new phone. So I think
Yeah.
that kind of just stuck with me, right? So financial responsibility was kind of taught to me at a young age.
Yeah,
Um,
no,
yeah,
that is very very important, and shout out to Papa Hernandez
yeah,
for doing that, right?
yeah,
Um, but
definitely.
no, I think money is such a taboo topic. Like no one
Right.
likes to talk about it. No one wants to get into their personal finances and
Mhm.
share. And I think it's very important when you have kids to talk to them about money. You don't necessarily have to go into the nitty gritty details, but start talking to them at a young age. That way they can understand what money actually is and how it
Right.
works in our system. Once
Mhm.
they understand that, the second thing that rules the world is businesses,
Mhm.
small businesses that like our economy can't survive without it. And so that would be another thing to start teaching. And that's why I started this podcast. And that's why I also wrote my book. So
That's
I
amazing.
released. You wanted to know what one of
Yeah.
the things I did back in 2020. When the world was on fire and
Yeah.
everyone was forced to be inside. I was like, all right, what can I do with my time? And so I decided to write a financial literacy book, teaching kids how to manage, how to save, and how to invest their money. And the age
Amazing.
range is 7 plus.
Wow.
But I've
Mhm.
had 5 year olds read it, and I've had adults read it and actually learn something. It talks about everything from what is money, all the way to like cryptocurrency, like everything. It's called Money Talks: The Beginner's Guide to Investing for Kids. And when I released it, it debuted as #1 on Amazon back in April.
That's amazing, dude. That's so
It was
awesome.
crazy. I found a way to market. I did a lot of studying on
Yeah.
how to release the book, and actually I'll always shout out Tiger Toledo. The episode I had with Tiger Toledo on this
Mhm.
podcast maybe 2 years ago, I think changed my life and how I viewed um, business, how I viewed passive income, how I viewed things that I had no idea. And so he gave me some secrets, and it worked. So
Oh,
yeah.
that's awesome. I'll need to go listen to that podcast.
Oh
I'm
yeah, for sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
that's so
Um, cool, but I know we kind of got off sidetrack, but I did want to know where you got the discipline from because
yeah,
it's important.
yeah,
So go ahead and talk about the triple net lease. That's where we left off.
right.
Um, and you got a flat rate. Do you mind sharing that flat rate?
Yeah, I mean, this was a while ago. So, 2,600 or
2,600,
1,600 square feet. Yeah.
1,600 square feet every
Mhm.
month. Year, was it like a 1 year, 2 year lease?
When I signed, I did a 1 year.
A
Mhm.
1 year. Okay. And let's go ahead and talk about kind of what when you're signing a contract at 20 years old, it's the landlord asking for like reserves. What do you need to have in order? Is he asking for insurance?
100%. Yeah. So you need property insurance and liability insurance, right? So they have different requirements that are stated in the lease. But of course, the property insurance is one that's pretty common for
So
leases.
at 20 years old, do you even know what that stuff is?
No, not until I read it
Kind of. Yeah.
to me.
Start googling it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So liability. If you don't mind sharing, liability insurance. What is it?
Yeah, so that protects you in case anyone gets hurt in your place of business. So for instance, for me, if a customer, something was a fall and, hit them and they try to come at me. So that liability would protect me personally and my personal assets in case something like that were to happen in store.
Wonderful. And how
Mhm.
much does that usually cost per month for the audience?
I think I do an annual thing, and the rates always change. I've changed companies a couple times throughout the years, but like, it can be anywhere from like 1,500 annually to 2,000 annually. So it
Okay.
kind of
Yeah,
depends.
just like a normal insurance, like fire
Exactly.
insurance or for your home or
Right.
something.
Hmm.
Okay. Or car insurance, really.
Right.
Okay. And I did want to talk about the structure of business, because I'm sure at 20 years old, maybe you didn't know what an LLC was, so you signed like the lease in your personal name.
Mhm.
Um, did you know what an LLC was? Did you sign?
I was a sole proprietor when I signed.
Okay.
So I didn't do an LLC yet, not until I was kind of more established. After a year of having and operating my business, I switched over. So
Okay.
I did sign as me.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, and now, you know, for those who don't know, and I'll talk about it all the time, so you should know if if you've been listening. But for the new listeners, an LLC protects you and your assets. So just like that liability insurance, that liability is kind of a second line of defense.
Right.
LLC would protect you. If someone did fall on your property, right, and they wanted to sue, they could sue the LLC, protecting all of your personal assets. If
Mhm.
that, whatever they were able to pierce the corporate veil or whatever, the liability insurance also
Mhm.
protects you. So it's kind of, an umbrella insurance, right? And
Exactly.
and okay, so you ended up creating your LLC, which is expensive as hell in California, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
But what was the process of learning that?
Learning which part? Creating an LLC?
Like, yeah, like who even taught you about that? And
Yeah.
how'd you know to do that?
Yeah. So at this point, after a year of having my business, I finally brought on a bookkeeper
Oh,
and
nice.
a CPA. So the bookkeeper is the one who definitely recommended I go that way for obvious reasons. And it's super easy. Anyone can file a LLC online. I use LegalZoom, and
Mhm.
they do all the filing for you, which is really nice. You just submit your information online. So that's how I was able to do that.
Nice.
Mhm.
And do you mind being open about your first year in business as a 20-year-old? Out of the first year in business, how many months were you profitable? What were the huge hurdles that
Mhm.
you had that you were kind of figuring out?
Man, that first okay, so I created projections when I was about to open and I was putting together my business plan. I had to put projections of what I thought I was going to make the first year, and not only that, but what I had to make to cover my bills. So I was for that first month, I was like, okay, if I at least make $350 for the month every day, that will cover all my bills. And I was completely just blown away. My first day of opening, um, the community came out and supported me, and I made like $2,500 the first day of opening, and I was like, I quit my job as a waitress. I was like, "Guys."
That's awesome. Dipped out, huh?
So, but again, of course, the first day is super exciting, right? And so I had that expectation going forward for the rest of the month. I was like, this is what we're going to be doing on a daily basis,
Yeah.
which is not the case at all. So after that hype, things kind of settle down. Now it's like, okay, how am I going to continue to market myself to let people know that I'm here? This is a new business. How are you going to get people to shop with you? So I really got down on, strategic marketing for my business, really utilizing and maximizing my Instagram account. But so I worked every day at my shop. We're open 7 days a week, 11 to 6. I worked every day for a full month straight and before bringing on my first employee. Um, and so it was that first month was great. The first year was amazing. And after a first year of being in business, I was like, I'm ready to open a second location, a second
Oh,
book.
you was bold.
I was, let me tell you, but
Yeah.
huge lesson, dude, huge lesson. So, I don't know if you want me to like kind of tap into that or what that
Yeah,
second
absolutely.
was like,
Yeah,
because
yeah, no, go ahead.
this was one of my rock bottom moments, making
Okay.
this
Oh,
decision to expand.
uh-huh.
So my first year was great. We're bringing in. Do you want me to share? I don't know
Please,
if I should or not.
please.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on a monthly basis, we're bringing in about $30,000 a month.
God
Um,
damn. That is amazing.
yeah, which is that's usually not the case for a lot of startup businesses. So you can understand why I was like, okay, I'm ready to open a second location.
I would have been like, I'm opening 10.
I know.
One, that's it.
Yeah, I know. And wanted to branch out more towards Marin. So keep in mind, I'm opened my shop in Cotati in Sonoma County, and I was like, I want to branch out. Let's go closer to the Bay Area. So I was like, let's go, and I'm going to do San Rafael. And so I went down, and I rarely go to San Rafael. I think I just was mainly going to eat and stuff. But my mentality was like, I want to open next to another university. Dominican University was right there. And, downtown 4th Street in San Rafael, pretty busy most of the time, a lot of traffic. So I went and scoped out the area. And it's funny because the thrift store that was in my Cotati shop, the one that was there before me, they were right there on 4th Street in San Rafael. And I was like, you know what, this should work out. And there was a place that was vacant. It was up for lease right downtown 4th Street. It was like 3-minute walk from the SMART train, prime area, right? And that space was 900 square feet. And I thought, because it's Marin, rent's going to be super expensive. So I met with the landlord, and he claimed he was giving me the best price on the strip. And little did I know he was completely taking advantage of me and like tripled what I should have been paying, which I didn't know at the time. And I signed a 3-year lease. Oh. So, again, after a year of having my shop open, I opened up a second location in San Rafael, and barely made any money. I was really glad if I even brought in, if I sold like one t-shirt a day. After a month of being open, I was doing the commute from Windsor to San Rafael 7 days a week, which is like an hour drive pretty much. Not making any money. And, 2 months go by, 3 months go by, and I had to really start thinking what am I going to do? Because at this point, my Cotati location was now supporting the second rent that was coming in. And that second rent, I'm going to share with you, he was charging me $3,600 for a 900 square feet space.
Did you find out what the other people around you were making?
Yes, because I wanted to break my lease, and I was hoping he would do that. So keep in mind, I signed a 3-year lease contract, and I went to my landlord, I was like, can we break the lease? You pretty much do a settlement, right? So try to see what they'll agree to, like paying the money or giving the money up front to break the lease. He was like, nope, you signed a 3-year lease contract. You're going to pay me rent every month until this lease is over. He did not care that at this time I was 21 years old. He didn't care about my sob story, care that my business was going downhill. He wanted to collect his money, which I get, I totally understand. I signed a contract. I understand the position that I was in. And I ended up I was able to I could sublease the space. So subleasing, means that you bring in someone else to rent the space so that they can pay for your rent until your contract's over. So I hired a commercial realtor to help me kind of market the space and get someone moved in. And she was the one who shared with me what I should have been paying for that price and just how.
And what was it?
Crazy it was. That should have been around 1,300 to not even barely 2,000. Yeah, so that hurt. That hurt. I was like, wow. And that again was because of my lack of knowing the location and asking, checking out the market of what.
It's just when you start making like that money, or when your dreams start to kind of flourishing or whatever, you kind of want to hurry up. And sometimes we have to really deep dive and analyze the situation that we're about to.
So to not make those emotional decisions, it looked great and stuff, but I did not spend the time really researching what was, the area and all of that. And I mean, long story short, after 4 months of being open, I decided to completely move out. I moved all my stuff out. I did not want to be there anymore. It was a rock bottom time for me because I did not know if my business was going to survive this. It was so heavy.
So you got someone in there, right? No, you just moved out and just kept the 3 years.
I moved out. I paid rent for a full year until I finally put my foot down, and I was like, my business can't do this anymore. I'm not gonna pay rent anymore. And I did that, and the landlord had a change of heart all of a sudden. And he was like, you know what? He literally was like, I want you to sleep at night. So you can break this lease if you pay me this much money up front. It was a year and a half of me paying for a vacant location.
Yeah. Wow.
You can understand like how much that affected my business.
Oh, most def. Especially because that rent is way more than the one you already
Oh
had.
gosh.
Like,
So
and you
much.
still have to live. It's not like, you know what I mean? And you're
Yeah,
still commuting, you're still buying clothes to make the other
paying
shop survive.
employees, right? Yeah.
Yeah, now you have employees at 21 years old. So
Mm,
like that's a lot. That's a lot to take on, especially like mentally, right? Like, you
time.
know, and physiologically everything. And
And
so
I just wanted to pull the trigger so bad. I really wanted that was like a first time when I wanted to quit. And I'm not a quitter, but that was the first time where I was like, I want to stop everything. I don't want to do this anymore. Like it was just mentally and physically draining. It was too
yeah.
much for me. I couldn't sleep at night.
Yeah, nah, that's terrible. How much did he require you to pay, if you don't mind sharing?
I don't really want to share that, but
Oh, it's
just
okay. What was it?
a lot of
It
money.
wasn't. It wasn't the 2 years left that you had, right?
No, thankfully not. Yeah,
Because
right.
that would have made no sense, and you could have
Oh,
just
no,
been
no, no.
paying. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
So we came to an agreement, and I made it happen with every penny that I had left.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so you kind of start from ground zero after that.
Yeah.
That's done. You're back at the other shop, which is still cash flowing, but now you're kind of paying your debt that you
Like,
know.
right. Now it's
Um,
just, yeah.
how long did it take you to kind of even out?
Well, so here's the thing. So that was like after that year, 2019, or was it 2017 when we had the Sonoma County fires?
I think it was 2008.
Oh,
I
I
thought it
think
was
it was right,
18.
2017 and then 2018, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So I had to be closed for a couple days, and our whole community, Sonoma County was affected by that because it was the Santa Rosa fires that had happened. And so we actually, my family and I stayed at my shop for like almost 2 weeks because no one could go outside and all of that. So, and we were evacuated from our house. So that was also a rough year. So after that first year, trying to recover of losing all that money for, the second shop, then came the fires, and then of course no one was really shopping and stuff, and I was trying to get our revenue back up and I literally was, after that year and a half of having to pay that additional rent, I was struggling because I had rent to pay still, and I had my employees, and I was trying to increase our revenue, right, so I can invest back into our inventory. So we were really scraping that year after. um, and it took some time to get up, but thankfully we became stable again. Um, and then the pandemic happened,
Yeah.
and but I can tell you, when the pandemic happened, it was a blessing in disguise for my business. Um, during that rock bottom moment that I had of opening that second location, God really taught me so much, and I gained so much wisdom through that experience. And I learned how to overcome my anxiety, learned how to like push my fear out of the way and to be content in any situation.
Mhm.
And so when a pandemic happened, old me would have freaked out, right? Because, I had to shut down my business. So old me would have like freaked out, worried so much, not sleep at night. But when the pandemic happened, I had peace, I had contentment. Like I just knew everything was going to be okay. And I used that time. So we had to close our shop, right? And I had to send all my employees home. I had no work for them. So it was back to me running the shop by myself, like it was day one. And I was trying to sell everything I had in store through Instagram, through our website. I couldn't order any new inventory because all of our vendors were closed down, right? So I was down to just selling whatever I had left in store. And it was kind of a surreal moment because I remember looking back and I had like 3 shirts left on every rack. And it looked like I was barely getting ready to move in. And I was
Yeah.
like, this is what it's come to. I was like, you know, and all the sales I was making was going towards my rent. thankfully, I have an amazing landlord at that location, and he was like, "If you ever need to, pause on rent, I completely understand." But I was able to continue to pay my rent through the pandemic, and I got down on digital marketing. I got all of our, revamped our website and really got down on how to create the best online shopping experience for my customers. And once my vendors opened back up, I was able to place some orders. And thankfully, I applied for some grants that were given to small businesses. I was able to get grants that helped me invest back into inventory.
Mm.
And once we got inventory in, I was like, "Okay, let's get to selling." And I started, strategically marketing on Instagram, and our sales went through the roof. And then we were able to open back up a couple months later once the pandemic kind of loosened up, right? Things were able to open up. And so we had our in-store was operating again, and we were getting so many online orders. It was hard for my employees to keep up with it. We had no more space for inventory. I couldn't keep up with any of that. So I was,
This is all good problems right here. This is like, this
that's
is
what I'm
good.
telling you. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a blessing in disguise. And if it forced me to get a warehouse. And keep in mind, I was so scared of any sort of expansion.
Yeah.
I was like, I do not want to take on another lease. I don't want to do it. So I held on for so long to avoid doing that. But I was at a point where if I didn't make this move, it could really affect the growth of my business, because my business was in that position where it was ready to grow, right? So you have to kind of make those big decisions based on the growth of your business. And I went and got a warehouse and dedicated that to our online store where we process inventory and everything. And it was just, I just look back at it, and I just, it's still like, I still can't believe that we overcame that situation. And
Let's talk about kind of what the stuff you sell in your stores. Like, are you making any of the clothing? Are you a reseller? Are you? I know obviously this morning you went to get some stuff. Are you like talk about that?
yeah, so for bow and arrow, I purchase at wholesale. So I don't design
Okay.
anything myself with bow and arrow. So I have vendors based out of Los Angeles, and I go visit their warehouse, place orders. I select all the styles that we sell in store. So that's the concept for bow and arrow. For Holy Vintage, being a vintage shop, I go out sourcing for clothes, right? So I have a few connections, in the Bay Area and in LA, where I buy, bulk vintage. It's
Mhm.
pretty much what it is. So
Nice. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Have you ever thought about designing any or?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely did think about designing. One thing that I did was upcycling pieces. So I got like, a bunch of vintage tees, and I upcycled them. I love to sew. So I did a couple of sewing things myself, and I had like a little line of my upcycled stuff that I sold in store and online. So that was kind of the closest I got to tapping into designing my own stuff. But
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I did have a couple questions on your story a little bit. I know you. So one of the questions is when you before you even got that first store at 20 years old, were you selling online and making a good profit, or
no,
no? You just was like you just went cold turkey into
I was
that.
turkey.
That's crazy. Okay, okay. Now, when you like, how did you market your store to get what was it? I think you said you made 2,500 on the first day. What marketing techniques were you using besides like I guess Instagram? Was there any cool stuff you did or what?
No.
It was just location.
Let me tell you, yeah. So I honestly can't even tell you, dude. Like when I had my Instagram account, I only had 400 followers at the time when I opened up my shop, and I was doing all my marketing on there. Keep in mind, there was no paid ads. So it was all organic marketing. I did have like a small group of, I think it was like 5 girls who were like our brand ambassadors who were local. And so anytime we did a post, they would share it on their platform. And then also too, just on Facebook too, I guess I attended a bunch of networking events in our community, and I was kind of spreading the word that way. But that's all the marketing that I did. That was it.
Damn, that's
Um,
crazy. That's
yeah.
crazy to think about that. That is literally God's plan right there. So maybe
Yeah.
I should play Drake's God's plan right there.
Yeah.
'Cause this is wow, that is so cool. like wow, you
Yeah,
got down to rock bottom, you learned your
right.
lesson, you
Hmm.
bounced back even stronger. When did you open Holy Vintage?
Yeah, Holy Vintage, I opened October 29th of 2021.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was the Santa Rosa. Have you been to Santa Rosa before? I
Yeah, yeah,
don't.
yeah.
Oh, you have? Okay, awesome. Yeah, so we're right on downtown 4th Street, which is a pretty prime area. Now that space is huge. That one is over 3,000 square feet, so it's definitely a larger spot. Um,
Hmm.
but what's cool is that my sister, she's occupying a big chunk of the space for her coffee shop. So it works out pretty well. The space does. But yeah,
That's
so we're
awesome.
approaching a year on that, which is already crazy. I can't believe that.
Yeah, nah, that's really cool. Congratulations on that
Thank
and all of that success right there. I do want to move on to the hella misguided segment where I ask the same question to each entrepreneur who comes up here. That
you.
question is simple. It is, if you were to write a letter to your 18-year-old self, what would a summary of that letter be?
Oh gosh, dude, I don't even know. Oh, that's just so hard. I guess it would be something along the lines of, whatever obstacles that you face, whatever struggles that you encounter, you are going to overcome them, and to continue just to lean on God and to continue to trust Him during that process, even though you don't know what the outcome's going to be. Just continue to lean on Him and trust that there's a purpose for everything. Every mountain that you face, even in your low times, there's a purpose for everything, and there's always something to take away from it, to learn from. So just to continue to put your trust in Him.
I like it. I like it. Purpose for everything.
Yeah.
That might be the title of this episode.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. Cool. Okay. And um, what are some things now? Obviously, we heard about your struggles
Yeah.
starting it. What are some struggles that you're currently trying to figure out? Like, obviously, maybe recovering from the
Yeah.
pandemic. I don't know. Go ahead and get into it.
Um, yeah, so something I'm currently struggling with, I guess, is finding the balance between running 3 businesses and just reminding myself that I'm just one person.
Oh
Um,
man, I struggle with that every day.
no,
I would never figure that out. I feel like.
yeah, mm-mm. It's like it was really, yeah, because so I have, Bone Arrow Holy Vintage in the SoCal market, and you know, it just takes a lot from me, right? So I learned the importance of building a strong team for your business, right? Because that's the only way you're able to grow is if you invite more people in and hire people who are your strength where you are weak. I think is definitely key too, and just learning to lean on them too, because that's what they're there for. They're there to help you, right?
Yeah.
And so, kind of learning how to do that and how to balance my personal life to take care of me, because I was the last person taken care of all the time. So I think that's something that I continue to struggle with, right? Is just being intentional with taking a break from everything and checking in with myself, seeing how I'm doing,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
it's important. It's important. Therapy, um, me time, uh, off days. I actually recently learned that like off days are like important.
Mhm.
I have a very hard time of sitting still, and not like ADHD or anything like that. Like if I am watching Netflix for 3 hours, I feel guilty and I don't like myself because of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I am like, no, I need to be doing something. Someone right now is outworking me and getting better. And I'm sitting here watching true crime
Mhm.
on Netflix. And
Mhm.
so I feel guilty about that. And like my wife usually has to be like, dude, you gotta sit down. Like sit the
Yeah.
fuck down and focus because, you know, you're gonna stress yourself out. And yeah, that's something I struggle with.
Yeah.
And so that's good that you're open.
What do you do? Sorry,
Say it
I was
again.
just gonna ask, like, what do you do? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, it like
um,
it was a
I
little
was.
echoey or something.
Oh, okay, sorry. I was just gonna ask, like, what do you do for yourself, like, for your time? Like, what's your outlet where you can just kind of, breathe?
So recently, and I talked about this, I did a little episode, but recently I started waking up at 4:30 a.m. Um, what this is allowed. So I have two younger kids,
Mhm.
3 and 1. And what this allows me to do is wake up before them and get that me time.
Mhm.
Because before I started waking up at 4:30, I would feel guilty. Like,
Yeah.
I'd wake up, take one of them to school or whatever, get them ready, all that. And then when they come home, I'm working, daddy's working, or I am like, oh, go play or go watch TV. Let me finish this because I need to do it.
Mhm.
What I realized when I start waking up early, I can get what I need to get done, right? So usually I work out first, get that out the way, and then I come to my studio and do some business and kind of work on my next thing, right?
Mhm.
And then they wake up, and then I don't feel guilty spending time with them because I'm not doing any business, or I don't feel guilty that I'm pushing them off, because I'm
Yeah.
trying to be present. And so that's helped me a lot, honestly. And the 4:30 thing, I feel a little bit better, right? Because I've already done what I needed to do. And so now, because my businesses are just so like, oh shit, I got to be there. I got to be, my businesses pop up. So like I live by my calendar, but I may get calls all day saying, hey, or hey. And so I have to kind of have an open schedule, right?
Mhm.
And you as well, I'm sure. And so that's kind of like, I don't feel guilty of like, all right, now I got to go do this, but I really wanted to do this.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's definitely a great question right there. Um, and so, I do want to know, what are some other things you do, to kind of get that me time now, or hobbies, right? Like
Yeah.
you can't always do clothing.
No, yeah, definitely not. Like you too, I get my workouts in, right? So that's always key to me. I try to do that at least 4 to 5 days a week. I journal a lot too. I try to be intentional with my mornings, kind of dedicate journaling to that. Family is huge for me. So, during the week, I'll, make time to go have dinner with my parents, with my family. And then also just kind of, being outdoors and really just living in the moment when I get that time to really breathe and just to appreciate everything. But I
Yeah.
think, just being present has been huge for me because I know, like you, I'm sure you struggle with this too. Your mind's always like, go, go, go. What's the next thing I'm going to do? What's the next, project I'm going to work on? So I had to pause myself when I start getting like that.
Yeah, it's
Just like,
yeah,
you
it
know,
gets bad. It gets bad. I like I one of the things I was talking to like my therapist about, like a year ago. It was like probably
Mhm.
like during the pandemic. I was like telling him I'm having anxiety because there's so much
Mhm.
I want to do,
Yeah.
and it's like, how do I spend equal amount of times doing it? And one of the things she was like, I don't know if she said it or it just popped in my head, but I was like, I'm just gonna get a whiteboard. I
Yeah.
ended up getting a whiteboard, went down to Home Depot, bought one for like $6. I ended up hanging it in my studio, and it
Mhm.
sits here. And like literally the first day, I just wrote everything down, and
Yeah.
the whiteboard was just crazy. And looking at it made more anxiety. And it just sat there full of ideas for
Yeah.
maybe a year. And
Mhm.
I was like, it got to the point to like when I went to try and erase it, it wouldn't come off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just ideas, and I was like, that is overwhelming. So I was like, one of the days recently, I was like, I gotta change this up. What can I do? So I
Yeah.
just put like all my businesses, and I was
Mhm.
like, all right, two things. Focus on two things. Write down two things, and don't write anything else. And so now each of my businesses, well, now it's at like four on some of them, but
Yeah.
so yeah, I just was like, I gotta, make
Yeah.
it a little bit better. And so I that was one tool that I helped, or that I used to kind of help, but
Yes.
failed at.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it happens all the
No
time.
worries. Cool. Well, I appreciate you coming up here. I mean, this has truly been amazing. I like to wrap up, the episode with a question that we didn't talk about on the recording.
Yeah.
We go over questions. I kind of like to have a surprise hitter.
Mhm.
That hitter could be a serious question. It could be a funny question. It could be an emotional question. Are you ready?
Yes. Give it to me.
Okay. This segment is called Guided Conclusions. All right. Would you rather be a great boss but offer little, or be an average boss but offer more? And you can take that however you want. If it's offer more benefits, if it's offer whatever, however you want to take it.
Yeah.
That's the
So
question.
repeat one more time for me, please.
Yeah. Would you rather be a great boss but offer little, or be a average boss and offer more?
Yeah, definitely the second one, being an average boss but offering more. Because like one thing that I learned is that you just because you run a business, you're the boss doesn't mean that you're higher than everyone else. And creating a business, you know, it brings a lot of rewards, and one of those rewards, that's something that's rewarding for me, is being able to give back and to, invest in my employees and to tap into what they're interested in, and just seeing them where they're at, right? And they're more than my employees, and I try to sew back into them, and I let them know too, like, I see you, I value you, I appreciate you, and I'm also here too as a mentor. If there's been some of my employees who want to start businesses of their own, so like meeting with them and just guiding
That's
them.
awesome.
And
That's awesome.
yeah, so I think definitely average boss above all. If you're able to pour more into your team, into your employees, it's just a win-win.
It's rewarding for you at the end of the day, because then they're gonna work harder for you. I actually learned that. Um, I learned that through a couple of people that I listen to, but being someone that people respect and are loyal to,
Hmm.
even though you might not be able to provide certain things to them, and I
Right.
mean
Yeah.
certain things by like it all comes down to integrity, right?
Right.
And being able to trust the person you're working for.
Yeah.
I learned this by working in different companies,
Yeah.
right? I went from working at Coca-Cola, which is a big, national brand,
Right.
right?
Corporation.
And yeah, and I noticed that the way they treat people is almost just like a numbers game, right?
Hmm.
Then I went to work for a startup, and immediately from day one, I'm like getting showered with like cookies, gifts, and just like, hey, here goes stock in the company, and here goes, this also unlimited PTO. We really care about mental health days. Here's a free app that we have, like stuff like that. And I'm like, whoa, like, you
Yeah.
care?
Yeah.
You know what? Also, like when it was like when my wife got pregnant, they were like, "Oh, you also get more months off.
Oh
Here
wow.
you go." And I was like, "Wait, what?"
Oh,
Because
I strive to
dad,
do that. I
yeah,
strive to want to get.
dad's only got like when I was with Coca-Cola, I think I only got like 6 weeks. Well, that was based on California, right? But
Yeah.
in Coca-Cola can decide to honor that or extend it. And
Yeah.
I think it was just like 6 weeks paid, everything else is unpaid.
Yeah.
And then I think when I came to my new job, I think they offered me a little bit more. I got to check the handbook. I don't want to be upping them if they,
Yeah.
yeah. But nah, yeah. So it's a difference in how you're treated
Yeah.
as an employee makes you want to work for that company much more.
Exactly. Definitely.
Yeah, great
Yeah.
blog. Provide a lot. That's cool. All right, you want to drop your social medias and everything where people can reach out to you?
Yes, yeah. So follow us, Bow and Arrow Clothing, if you're into, it's mainly women's clothing. We got great style. So that's on Instagram at Bow and Arrow Clothing. Holy Vintage, if you're into vintage clothing, sneakers, you can follow us at Holy, and it's HOLEE_vintage. And then if you are a small business looking to get plugged in with pop-ups and you want to join our community market, you can follow the SoCo Market at the SoCo Market on Instagram. Come to it, dude. You should come out to our
Can you
next
spell
one.
that? Can you
Yeah,
spell that?
yeah, the SoCo Market. It's SoCo is SOCO.
Okay,
Yes, check us out on
market.
Instagram.
What is it? What, and that's the Instagram, or
That is the Instagram.
I
We have a
think I
website too. Yeah.
SOCO market.
Yes.
All
The
right,
SoCo
you're not
Market.
popping up. Hold on, let me. I got you. I'll find it. I'm smart. I'm smart.
Okay.
All right. Well, you guys heard it here. This is the Misguided Podcast where we intend to guide you to a better future. Again, my name is Juwan. I'm sitting here with Mercedes. Make sure you guys go check out her store in person or online and support. I mean, this was an incredible story. Honestly, it was probably one of my favorites. Not just because I love fashion, but it's also something I'm passionate about and I want to do and get into. And so you actually taught me a lot, which I'm sure if you taught me, you definitely taught my audience. So thank you.
Awesome.
I
And thank you
truly
so much
appreciate it.
for allowing me to share my story too. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, of course. Alrighty, you guys. Well, you heard it here. We'll talk to you later.